Hey guys, I'm back with another Batmobile, and this time we're going to be taking a look at the Eaglemoss model of the Subway Rocket from Detective Comics number 667. This is a really cool, really unique Batmobile that was primarily piloted by a Batman other than Bruce Wayne. Now, Detective Comics 667 is part of the Knighquest story arc, where we saw Jean-Paul Valley taking over the mantle of the Bat. The events of Knighquest occurred directly after Nightfall, which culminated in the popular storyline of Bane breaking the Batman, which of course forced Bruce Wayne to retire as the Dark Knight, and that's when Valley is recruited to temporarily stand in for Batman. Now, if you're familiar with the Knighquest story, then you know that Jean-Paul Valley was a very different Batman. This is where the whole brainwashed assassin Azreal story comes into canon. He was just a bad, bad dude. So where Bruce Wayne would intimidate criminals through fear, Jean-Paul Valley would intimidate through violence and brutality. He had a very different preferred look. He was very armored and weaponized, and he did not get along with the Tim Drake Robin. Early on in Knighquest, he actually bricked off an entrance to the Batcave to prevent Robin from entering, and later, after a skirmish with Robin, he modified this subway rocket to be a one-seater because he never wanted anyone like Robin to be riding with him in the Batmobile. The subway rocket was one of several Batmobiles or Bat vehicles in the Batcave during this time. Instead of roaming the streets of Gotham City, it traveled on the Gotham Underground rail system, and it allowed the new Batman to move at speeds up to 250 miles per hour. Now, the outward appearance of this Batmobile is pretty basic. Aerodynamics were definitely a priority for the design, right? What did give it a traditional Batmobile look was the adjustable spoilers on the front and the back. The special features in the magazine mention how these adjustable spoilers acted as blast shields to protect Batman from debris or even head-on collisions, which did happen in the book. And I like how the special features also go so far as to remind us that this Batmobile did have a passenger seat, but it was eventually scrapped as the new Batman believed he could do without Robin. Now, the cross-sections in this magazine illustrate many of the design features, but it also shows us how the cockpit works to accommodate the changing direction of the driver. The cross-sections at the bottom show the different stages of the canopy as it rotates from one position to the next. It's pretty cool. So, let's check out the diorama that Eaglemoss gave us for this subway rocket. The 3D lenticular has an image of the Jean-Paul Valley Batman in the Batcave walking up to where the subway rocket has access to the railway. I think it's built off of this image where the unmasked Batman walks up to the subway rocket for the first time. The image of Batman has this 3D effect with his head turning, and the different sections of his cape are layered. They enhanced this image with a couple of other panels from the book. You can see just behind him there are some boxes and equipment that he actually used to modify his bat suit. And I like how in the middle here, there's some real depth to the 3D image. You know, the shadows imply this passage that goes deeper into the cave. It's really cool. On this side, there are some chains and hooks, and there's a light source that looks like a chandelier almost. I think the chain and the chandelier, they really add this sort of medieval Gothic element that fits the character of Jean-Paul Valley, or Azreal. I also like how they added these 3D shadows for the rats at the bottom there. And you know, all of these elements, the layers of shadow, the walls in the background, the images in the foreground, it all helps to make for a very dynamic backdrop for this diorama. Now, the base appropriately has this dirt and gravel-looking floor. And of course, it has a print of the railroad tracks that lead into the subway where this Bat rocket actually travels. I like the brown colors that they chose because it almost implies that this really is a part of the railway system that's been abandoned. And, as always, when you put it all together, it makes for a great display base for this particular Batmobile. So, let's take a closer look at the subway rocket in the Batcave. This model has a lot of unexpected plastic parts. The main hull of the rocket is die-cast metal, and as usual, The bottom plate is plastic. Instead of rubber tires, this one has plastic for the titanium wheels. And mine is missing that silver part on the front left. It wasn't in the display case, so I'm not really sure what happened to it. But all of these little extra bits, like the front lowered spoiler, is a separate piece of plastic. And the gel headlights on the front, those are all individually attached. The metal die-cast mold of the body has some nice sculpting too, like those footsteps on the side and the circles on the front of the hood there. And I like these little etched marks around the canopy of the cabin. It also has this plastic bar on the sides. And there are more separate pieces for the lights on the back. And of course, this raised spoiler is a separate piece of plastic. Now, the cockpit is fairly simplistic, but they included many of the details that we actually see in the artwork from the book. It has 2 seats facing a row of computer screens and the hand throttles on the front. But as I mentioned, the cabin can actually spin around to accommodate whichever direction the rocket is traveling. So in addition to the control panels and the seats, they also included this sort of elliptical roll bar that we see in the book. And since the cockpit can change directions, they included the row of computer monitors on the front and the back, or behind the seats, so Batman can actually see what's going on regardless of which way he's facing. Now, one thing Eaglemoss did with this model that I really like is that they made this subway rocket a black Batmobile. Now, regardless of which angle you see it in the book, it always looks like a blue Batmobile. I'm not entirely sure why they did that, but the artists, they basically took that approach throughout the entire book. Oftentimes with the bat suits, the gadgets, the Batmobiles, they would be blue when you would typically expect them to be black. I like the liberties that Eaglemoss took with this Batmobile in making it appropriately a darker and a more menacing vehicle. I want to do a couple of quick side-by-side comparisons. I don't have any other Nightfall Batmobiles or models of the subway rocket, so I thought we'd do something a little different this time. I thought it would be fun to show you this model next to some of the other Batmobiles that we actually see in Nightquest. I mentioned earlier how the new Batman bricks off the entrance to the Batcave in order to keep Robin and Alfred out. Well, there's a scene where Robin sneaks into the cave in order to get to his Batmobile, the Redbird. And when he gets there, we actually see some of the other Batmobiles that are in the cave. This is right before he has his confrontation with the new crazy Batman. So, 2 of the Batmobiles that we see are the classic Batmobile from Batman #5, and of course we also see Robin's Redbird. These are all Eaglemoss models. Now, obviously, these Batmobiles don't have any visual similarities. The subway rocket is not your typical Batmobile, and the only thing that they really have in common is that we see all of them in the same book. I've mentioned this in some of my other videos, but I love it when artists draw the Batcave and they have Easter eggs of Batmobiles from past comic books or from even the movies. The Batmobile from Batman #5 was the second Batmobile, and that one seems to pop up quite often in other books. It's cool to think that somewhere deep in the Batcave, Batman has all of these past Batmobiles stashed away somewhere. In closing, this subway rocket is a really cool and a unique take on a Batmobile. Eaglemoss did a great job with the recreation of this model based on the artwork from the book. It has a lot of details in terms of the plastic additions. It's faithful to what we actually see with the cockpit in the comic. My model has a few defects, but I think Eaglemoss still did a great interpretation of the Batmobile that was first used by the deadly Jean-Paul Valley. I love the fact that they realized it as a black Batmobile, and I also like the way they changed some of the colors in the diorama from what we saw in the book. I think the dark reds in the 3D lenticular really add to the display quality. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. As always, I want to thank all of my subscribers for sticking with me and for continuing to watch and leave great comments. Of course, I also want to give special thanks to Stewart Murray 47 for helping me get a hold of this Batmobile. Hopefully, I'll be able to continue doing more reviews from my complete Eaglemoss Batmobile collection over the coming weeks. So, we've been looking at the Eaglemoss Batman Automobilia issue number 36. The the Subway Rocket from Detective Comics number 667. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.